Life and work of Marie Curie. Marie Curie, born Maria Skłodowska on November 7, 1867, in Warsaw, Poland, was a groundbreaking scientist whose life was shaped by her early years in a politically repressive and culturally rich Poland. Her journey from childhood to scientific discovery was marked by resilience, intellectual ambition, and a deep love for learning. Birth and family background. Marie was the youngest of 5 children in the Skłodowska family, which held education in high regard. Her father, Władysław Skłodowski, was a teacher of mathematics and physics, while her mother, Bronisława, managed a prestigious boarding school for girls. The family's intellectual foundation fostered a strong environment for learning. However, they were also financially unstable, especially after her father lost his position due to his Polish nationalist sympathies under Russian rule. Poland was under Russian domination, and the repressive regime attempted to eliminate Polish culture, suppressing the language and limiting educational opportunities, particularly for women. Despite these challenges, the Skłodowska family maintained a strong Polish identity and passed this sense of patriotism on to their children. Tragedy struck the family when Marie was just 10 years old. In 1876, her eldest sister, Zofia, died of typhus, followed 2 years later by the death of her mother from tuberculosis. These early losses deeply affected Marie, and from a young age, she learned to endure hardship with quiet strength. Her father's influence grew stronger after these tragedies, and he continued to instill in Marie a passion for science, mathematics, and Polish culture, despite the obstacles created by Russian rule. Informal education and the Flying University. In Russian-controlled Poland, formal education for girls was extremely limited, and what existed was often heavily censored to promote Russian ideology. Despite these restrictions, Marie was an exceptional student. She attended a government school, but found the curriculum stifling as it promoted Russian language and culture over her native Polish roots. Still, she graduated with top honors at the age of 15. Marie's thirst for knowledge led her to seek out additional education through informal channels. The Flying University in Warsaw, a clandestine network of professors and students committed to teaching subjects that were banned by the Russian authorities, became a key part of her education. It was here that she encountered more advanced concepts in science and the humanities, all while defying the Russian-imposed regulations that sought to keep Poland intellectually suppressed. This underground education system not only allowed Marie to deepen her knowledge, but also reinforced her determination to pursue higher education, even though women were barred from attending universities in Poland at the time. This desire would eventually lead her far beyond the borders of her homeland. Desire to study abroad and financial struggles. Marie's older sister, Bronisława, had moved to Paris to study medicine at the Sorbonne, a prestigious university known for accepting female students. Marie dreamed of joining her sister in Paris to pursue higher education, but financial constraints made this impossible at the time. Instead, Marie took on work as a governess, first for a family in Warsaw and later for a family in the countryside. While working as a governess, Marie did not give up on her studies. She continued to read widely in physics, chemistry, and mathematics during her free time. She also stayed connected with her family and continued learning through correspondence with her father. Her role as a governess was demanding, but it allowed her to save money and support her sister Bronisława's medical education in Paris, with the understanding that Bronisława would later support her in return. During this period, Marie also experienced a personal emotional conflict. While working for a wealthy landowning family, she fell in love with their son, Kazimierz Kurowski. However, his family did not approve of their relationship due to Marie's lower social standing, and the relationship ended. This rejection further strengthened her resolve to leave Poland and focus on her academic and professional future. Studying in Paris, The Road to Scientific Discovery 1891 to 1898. In 1891, after several years of working as a governess and saving money, Marie finally moved to Paris to pursue her dream of a university education. She enrolled at the Sorbonne, where she adopted the French form of her name, Marie. Life in Paris was challenging. She lived in small, cold apartments and often went without meals to afford tuition and books. Despite these hardships, Marie thrived academically. She immersed herself in her studies, focusing primarily on physics and mathematics. Marie's time at the Sorbonne was transformative. She earned a degree in physics in 1893, finishing first in her class, and a degree in mathematics in 1894, placing second. During this time, she also met Pierre Curie, a fellow scientist who would later become her husband and research partner. Their shared passion for science and discovery led to a deep bond, both personally and professionally. In 1894, Marie began working on her first major research project, investigating the magnetic properties of various steels. Her work was noticed by prominent scientists in the field, and it was through these connections that she would soon make her groundbreaking discoveries in radioactivity. First discoveries 1891 to 1898. Marie and Pierre Curie married in 1895, and their partnership became one of the most celebrated in scientific history. Together, they began their pioneering research into radioactivity, a term that Marie herself coined. Building on the work of physicist Henry Becquerel, who had discovered that uranium emitted rays, Marie conducted experiments to understand the nature of these emissions. In 1898, the Curies made one of their most significant discoveries, the existence of two new elements, which they named polonium after Marie's native Poland and radium. These findings would not only revolutionize the field of physics, but also have profound implications for medicine and other sciences. Studies in Paris and first discoveries 1891 to 1898, the rise of Marie Curie. Marie Curie's journey from a modest upbringing in Poland to becoming one of the most celebrated scientists in history is nothing short of remarkable. Her time in Paris, from 1891 to 1898, marks a pivotal period when she transitioned from a determined student to a trailblazing researcher in the field of radioactivity. During these years, she encountered great personal and professional milestones, including meeting her future husband, Pierre Curie, and making groundbreaking discoveries that would forever change the world of science. Moved to Paris, a new beginning. In 1891, at the age of 24, Marie Skłodowska left her native Poland and moved to Paris, a city that offered her the academic opportunities she had long dreamed of. She enrolled at the prestigious Sorbonne, one of the few places where women could pursue higher education. The transition to Paris was far from easy. Marie lived in poor conditions, residing in a tiny attic apartment that lacked adequate heating, and she struggled financially to support herself. Often, she went hungry, saving money for books and tuition instead of food. However, her passion for learning was unshakable. Despite these hardships, she thrived academically, immersing herself in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Her relentless work ethic paid off, and in 1893, she earned her degree in physics, graduating at the top of her class. Just 1 year later, she earned a second degree in mathematics, finishing second. Marie's determination to learn and excel in these male-dominated fields not only showcased her resilience, but also laid the groundwork for her future scientific breakthroughs. It was during these early years in Paris that she developed the foundations of her research, which would eventually lead to the discovery of radioactivity. Meeting Pierre Curie, a partnership of minds and hearts. In 1894, while searching for laboratory space to continue her experiments, Marie was introduced to Pierre Curie, a physicist and researcher who was already making strides in the study of magnetism. Pierre was fascinated by Marie's intellect and dedication to science, and the two quickly formed a deep bond over their shared passion for research. Pierre Curie was an ideal partner for Marie, not just in terms of their personal relationship, but also in their professional collaboration. He had already gained respect in the scientific community for his work on piezoelectricity and had a deep understanding of experimental physics. Marie, in turn, brought her rigorous theoretical background and enthusiasm for new scientific questions. In 1895, Marie and Pierre married in a simple civil ceremony, and rather than exchanging traditional wedding gifts, they bought bicycles, which they often rode together during their rare moments of leisure. Their relationship was defined by mutual respect and intellectual partnership. They worked side by side, not only supporting each other emotionally, but also collaborating scientifically, with their research pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Research on radioactivity, a new field of study. After earning her degrees, Marie began searching for a subject for her doctoral thesis. Around this time, physicist Henry Becquerel had made an unexpected discovery. Uranium salts emitted mysterious rays that seemed to be independent of any external energy source, such as sunlight. Intrigued by this phenomenon, Marie decided to investigate further. She hypothesized that these emissions were a property of the uranium atom itself, something fundamental and not previously understood. In 1897, Marie began experimenting with different minerals containing uranium to measure the strength of their emissions. She developed techniques for measuring radiation that were more sensitive than anything available at the time, allowing her to detect tiny amounts of radioactive energy. Through her meticulous experiments, she concluded that the intensity of the radiation depended only on the amount of uranium present, suggesting that the rays were coming from the uranium atoms themselves, an entirely new idea at the time. This discovery was groundbreaking. It provided the first evidence that atoms were not indivisible, as previously thought, but instead had complex internal structures. Marie's work laid the foundation for the field of atomic physics and introduced the concept of radioactivity, a term she coined. The discovery of polonium and radium, a scientific breakthrough. As Marie continued her research, she found that uranium was not the only element that emitted radiation. In 1898, she turned her attention to pitchblende, a mineral that contained uranium, but seemed to emit even stronger radiation than the uranium itself. This suggested that there were additional, unknown elements in the mineral that were even more radioactive. Working tirelessly with Pierre, Marie began the arduous task of isolating these elements from pitchblende. This was a grueling process that involved processing tons of the mineral in primitive laboratory conditions. Marie and Pierre worked in an old, leaky shed that offered little protection from the elements and the hazardous materials they were handling. Nevertheless, their persistence paid off. In July 1898, they announced the discovery of a new element, which Marie named polonium in honor of her native Poland. Polonium was far more radioactive than uranium, and its discovery was a significant achievement in the field of chemistry. Just a few months later, in December 1898, the Curies made an even more astonishing discovery: radium. This new element was highly radioactive, and its properties would later prove to have far-reaching implications for both science and medicine. Radium glowed faintly in the dark, and its powerful radiation had the ability to destroy disease cells, a fact that would later lead to its use in cancer treatment. The discovery of radium and polonium brought the Curies international acclaim, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter in their scientific journey. The identification of these elements was not only a monumental breakthrough in chemistry, but also a transformative moment in understanding the nature of matter itself. Their work revealed that radioactivity was a property intrinsic to certain elements, fundamentally challenging the classical models of atomic structure and opening up a new frontier in atomic physics. A grueling path to recognition. Despite the significance of their discoveries, the path to recognition and financial stability was anything but easy for the Curies. Marie and Pierre worked under difficult and dangerous conditions, handling radioactive materials without knowing the long-term health risks. They faced significant financial struggles and worked in a dilapidated laboratory with inadequate equipment. Even though their research was groundbreaking, they received little financial support from the scientific establishment. They did not patent their processes for isolating radium, believing that scientific knowledge should be shared freely for the benefit of humanity. This decision, while altruistic, meant that they continued to struggle financially. However, the world soon began to take notice of the Curie's contributions. In 1903, they were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics alongside Henry Becquerel for their collective work on radioactivity. The recognition brought international fame, but it also came with new responsibilities and expectations. For Marie, the Nobel Prize was not just a personal achievement. It marked the validation of years of hard work, perseverance, and intellectual rigor. Impact of early discoveries. Marie Curie's discoveries during this period, 1891 to 1898, fundamentally altered our understanding of the atom and laid the groundwork for future developments in nuclear physics and chemistry. The discovery of radium and polonium paved the way for further research into radioactive decay, nuclear reactions, and even the development of atomic energy. Beyond the scientific community, the medical applications of radium will become essential in the treatment of cancer, with radium therapy becoming one of the earliest forms of radiation treatment. In addition to the technical implications of her research, Marie Curie's achievements were also symbolic. As a woman in science, she defied the conventions of her time, proving that women could excel at the highest levels of academia and scientific discovery. Her work opened doors for future generations of women in science, who would look to her as a pioneer and role model. Recognition and Nobel Prizes, path to scientific immortality. Marie Curie's rise to international recognition and fame is marked by two pivotal moments in her career: receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903 and, later, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911. During this period, Curie not only solidified her place in scientific history, but also overcame significant personal tragedies, including the death of her husband, Pierre Curie. Despite the challenges, she became the first woman to win two Nobel Prizes, breaking barriers and setting new standards for women in science. The 1903 Nobel Prize in Physics, a milestone in science. By 1903, Marie Curie and her husband, Pierre Curie, had made groundbreaking discoveries in the field of radioactivity. Building on the work of Henry Becquerel, who discovered that uranium emit rays, the Curies took the research further. They introduced the world to two new elements, polonium, named after Marie's native Poland, and radium. These discoveries were not just chemical milestones, but also crucial in developing the concept of radioactivity, a term that Marie herself coined. In recognition of their contributions to science, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences awarded the 1903 Nobel Prize in Physics to Henry Becquerel, Marie Curie, and Pierre Curie. Initially, Marie's name was omitted from the nomination, a reflection of the gender biases that plagued the scientific community. However, thanks to Pierre's insistence, Marie was included in the final award, making her the first woman ever to receive a Nobel Prize. The award brought the Curies international fame, but it also created new pressures. Despite their groundbreaking work, the couple continued to struggle financially and worked under harsh conditions in a poorly equipped laboratory. Nevertheless, they persisted, motivated by their shared passion for discovery and their belief in the importance of their research. The recognition of the Nobel Prize also came with the responsibility of proving the significance of their discoveries to the world. Marie, who had already faced significant obstacles as a woman in a male-dominated field, had to navigate the challenges of newfound fame while continuing her research. The tragic death of Pierre Curie, a devastating blow. While their scientific success continued to grow, tragedy struck the Curie family in 1906. On April 19th, Pierre Curie was fatally struck by a horse-drawn carriage in the streets of Paris. His sudden death was a devastating blow to Marie, both personally and professionally. Pierre had been her partner in every sense, her collaborator in the lab, her intellectual equal, and her beloved husband. The loss left Marie heartbroken, and she faced the challenge of continuing their work without him. In the aftermath of Pierre's death, Marie experienced profound grief, but also an overwhelming sense of determination. Rather than retreat from her work, she chose to carry on the research they had begun together. In an extraordinary move, the University of Paris offered her Pierre's position as a professor of physics, making her the first woman to hold a professorship at the university. Her appointment was a significant breakthrough for women in academia and a testament to her resilience in the face of personal tragedy. The 1911 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, a historic second win. Marie Curie's determination paid off, and in 1911 she achieved another remarkable milestone. She won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. This time, The award was given solely in recognition of her individual contributions to science. She was honored for her discovery of the elements radium and polonium, as well as for her pioneering work in investigating the properties of these radioactive elements. The 1911 Nobel Prize cemented Curie's status as a scientific icon, as she became the first person, man, or woman to receive two Nobel Prizes. Her achievements shattered the barriers that had historically kept women out of the upper echelons of scientific research. In a world where women were still fighting for the right to vote, Curie's accomplishments were a powerful symbol of what women could achieve in the sciences. However, despite this historic achievement, Curie's life was far from easy. By the time she received her second Nobel Prize, she was dealing with the long-term effects of prolonged exposure to radiation. Little was known at the time about the dangers of radioactive materials, and Curie had spent years handling radium and other substances without protective measures. Although she did not realize it at the time, her groundbreaking research had come at great personal cost to her health. First woman to receive two Nobel Prizes, a legacy for the ages. Marie Curie's two Nobel Prizes were not just personal achievements, they were milestones for humanity. Her work laid the foundation for modern atomic theory and advanced fields as diverse as physics, chemistry, and medicine. The discovery of radium, in particular, opened up new possibilities for cancer treatment, as radium's radiation could be used to shrink tumors. This application of her research would go on to save countless lives. Yet Curie's legacy is not limited to her scientific achievements. Her determination to succeed in a male-dominated field inspired generations of women to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM. She proved that gender should not be a barrier to intellectual achievement, and her success encouraged others to challenge the status quo. Curie was a trailblazer, and her influence continues to be felt today, both in scientific circles and in broader discussions about women's rights and equality. Other significant events during this period. Between 1903 and 1911, while she achieved worldwide fame and endured great personal loss, Curie continued her groundbreaking research. She also became an advocate for the practical applications of her discoveries, particularly in medicine. Her efforts helped popularize the use of radium in the treatment of cancer, laying the groundwork for future advances in radiotherapy. At the same time, Curie faced increasing scrutiny from both the press and the public. Her personal life, especially after Pierre's death, became the subject of intense media interest. This culminated in 1911, when a scandal erupted over her relationship with physicist Paul Langevin, a former student of Pierre's who was estranged from his wife. Despite the media frenzy, Curie refused to let the scandal derail her scientific career. She remained focused on her research and refused to attend the Nobel Prize ceremony that year, though she ultimately accepted the award. Marie Curie during World War I, the foundation of the Curie Institute, and her final years, a lasting legacy. Marie Curie's life was marked by relentless scientific achievement, groundbreaking discoveries, and a deep commitment to using science for the betterment of humanity. The period spanning from World War I to her final years saw Curie expand her influence beyond the lab, establishing the Curie Institute and contributing to the war effort. She also faced the toll her research had taken on her health, ultimately leading to her untimely death. These years were as transformative as any other in her life, demonstrating her unwavering dedication to science and society. World War I, Marie Curie's wartime contributions. When World War I broke out in 1914, Marie Curie saw an immediate need to apply her scientific expertise to the war effort. She was deeply concerned about the casualties on the battlefield and recognized the importance of advanced medical care for soldiers. With the war dragging on and the number of wounded soldiers increasing, Curie turned her attention to radiology, a burgeoning field that she believed could make a significant impact in treating the wounded. At the time, X-ray technology was still relatively new, and mobile radiology units were not in widespread use. Curie, understanding the potential of X-rays to locate shrapnel and bone fractures, decided to take action. She helped establish mobile radiology units, which became known as Petites Curies, in her honor. These mobile units were essentially X-ray machines mounted on trucks, which allowed doctors near the front lines to quickly diagnose injuries and perform life-saving surgeries. Marie personally trained young women to operate these machines and even drove the vehicles herself to war zones. Despite the dangers, Curie was determined to contribute to the war effort directly. She believed that science had a moral responsibility to serve humanity, and her actions during the war were a testament to that belief. Thanks to her efforts, it is estimated that over 1 million soldiers received X-ray examinations during the war, a significant contribution to the medical field and a precursor to modern medical imaging practices. Her work during World War I didn't stop with mobile radiology units. Curie also worked to create a national system for radiology services in France, setting up over 200 fixed radiology units in hospitals across the country. Her contributions saved countless lives and demonstrated her ability to apply scientific principles to practical, real-world problems. The foundation of the Curie Institute, a center for research and medicine. Following the war, Marie Curie returned to her scientific endeavors with renewed purpose. In 1920, she embarked on her next great project, the establishment of the Curie Institute du Radium. With her reputation as one of the world's leading scientists, she was able to secure the funding and support necessary to build a research institution that would focus on the study of radioactivity and its medical applications, particularly in cancer treatment. The Curie Institute became one of the world's leading centers for research on radioactivity. It was a testament to Marie's vision of combining scientific research with practical applications to improve human health. The Institute not only advanced the understanding of radioactive materials, but also pioneered the use of radium in the treatment of cancer. Under Marie's leadership, the Institute became a hub for cutting-edge research and attracted some of the brightest minds in the field of physics and chemistry. Marie's efforts to establish the Curie Institute weren't just about scientific exploration. She wanted to create a place where future generations of scientists, particularly women, could study and contribute to the advancement of science. She believed that the doors of opportunity should be open to all, regardless of gender. The Curie Institute embodied this philosophy, providing education and research opportunities to a new generation of scientists. The Institute still stands today as a world-renowned research center, continuing Marie Curie's legacy by advancing cancer treatment and research in nuclear physics. It is a fitting tribute to her lifelong dedication to using science for the benefit of humanity. Illness and death, the price of discovery. By the 1920s, the full toll of Marie Curie's years of work with radioactive materials had become apparent. At the time, the dangers of prolonged exposure to radiation were not understood, and Curie had spent decades handling radium and other radioactive substances without any form of protection. She often carried test tubes of radium in her pockets, and her laboratory was filled with glowing vials of radioactive material. These years of exposure eventually led to severe health problems. In the late 1920s, Curie began to experience symptoms of what would later be diagnosed as aplastic anemia, a condition caused by bone marrow failure, which in her case was a result of her long-term radiation exposure. Despite her deteriorating health, Curie continued to work, committed to advancing the field of science and seeing the Curie Institute flourish. Marie Curie's condition worsened in the early 1930s, and on July 4, 1934, she passed away at the age of 66 in a sanatorium in the French Alps. Her death was attributed to complications from radiation exposure, a cruel irony considering the groundbreaking work she had done in understanding radioactivity. Her passing marked the end of an era in scientific history, but her legacy would continue to inspire generations of scientists. A lasting legacy, more than a scientist. Marie Curie's contributions to science are well documented, but her legacy extends far beyond her discoveries of radium and polonium or her Nobel Prizes. She was a pioneer not just in the field of radioactivity, but also in advocating for the practical application of science in medicine and in promoting the role of women in science. Throughout her life, Marie Curie broke barriers. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, the first person to win two, and the first woman to hold a professorship at the University of Paris. She demonstrated that women could not only participate in scientific research, but also lead it. Her accomplishments challenged the societal norms of her time, and her determination to succeed despite numerous obstacles inspired women around the world to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM. Her work during World War I, her establishment of the Curie Institute, and her contributions to cancer treatment through radiotherapy cemented her place in history, not only as a great scientist, but also as a humanitarian. Marie Curie's life was defined by her belief that science should serve humanity, and she lived that philosophy through her research, her wartime efforts, and the institutions she helped build. The legacy of Marie Curie, pioneer of radioactivity and inspiration for future generations. Marie Curie's legacy is immense, transcending the boundaries of science and extending into the realms of education, healthcare, and the empowerment of women. Known primarily for her pioneering work on radioactivity, Curie's influence touches many fields, and her dedication to research has inspired countless scientists. She not only broke barriers as a woman in science, but also laid the foundation for future medical advancements and scientific exploration. Her enduring legacy is marked by her contributions to radioactivity, the establishment of the Curie Institute, and the inspiration she continues to provide to generations of scientists, pioneering the study of radioactivity, a game-changing discovery. Marie Curie's work in radioactivity laid the cornerstone for modern nuclear physics and chemistry. The discovery of radioactivity was a monumental breakthrough, and Curie, along with her husband Pierre, took this discovery to new heights. Building on the work of Henry Becquerel, who first discovered that uranium emits spontaneous rays, Marie Curie introduced the term radioactivity and devoted her research to understanding its properties. Curie's rigorous research methods led to the discovery of two new elements, polonium and radium. Polonium was named after her native Poland, a nod to the country's fight for independence, while radium became central to her further studies. These elements exhibited stronger radioactive properties than uranium, which sparked the Curie's interest and deepened their commitment to uncovering the nature of radioactivity. Marie's approach to science was revolutionary. She focused on the concept of measurable phenomena, developing a keen understanding of how elements emitted energy in the form of rays. This approach directly contradicted the prevailing theories of the time and led to the establishment of radioactivity as a distinct physical property of certain elements. The work of Marie Curie on radioactivity not only helped develop modern nuclear science, but also had practical applications that would revolutionize medicine, particularly in cancer treatment. Curie's scientific discoveries were so groundbreaking that they opened up new possibilities in physics, chemistry, and medicine. Her research provided the framework for later studies on atomic structure, nuclear energy, and radiation therapies. Radioactivity, a term she coined, remains one of the most fundamental concepts in modern science, and it is Curie's relentless pursuit of understanding this phenomenon that cemented her place in history. The Curie Institute, advancing science and medicine. One of Marie Curie's most lasting contributions to the scientific world is the foundation of the Curie Institute, Institut du Radium in Paris. Established in 1920, the institute served as a research hub where scientists could focus on radioactivity and its medical applications. Curie had a clear vision for the institute. She wanted to create a space where groundbreaking research could thrive, and where young scientists, particularly women, could find opportunities to learn and innovate. The Curie Institute quickly became a leading research center for the study of radioactivity and radiation therapy. Under Curie's leadership, the institute made significant strides in cancer research, particularly in the treatment of tumors using radium. The institute also offered educational programs, helping to train a new generation of scientists in the field of radioactivity. By combining research and education, the Curie Institute became a symbol of Curie's dual commitment to both discovery and teaching. Curie's work at the Institute wasn't limited to scientific exploration. She was also a mentor and role model for the students and researchers who worked alongside her. Despite her fame and success, she remained humble and deeply committed to the scientific process, often emphasizing the importance of curiosity, discipline, and perseverance. Her work at the Institute helped lay the foundation for the future of nuclear science and establish a legacy that continues to influence cancer research today. To this day, the Curie Institute remains a leading research institution. It continues to make significant contributions to cancer treatment and research, carrying forward Marie Curie's vision of combining science with practical applications to improve human health. The Institute's work in radiation therapy has saved countless lives, proving that Curie's legacy is as vital today as it was a century ago. Inspiration for future generations, breaking barriers and shattering glass ceilings. Marie Curie's legacy is not limited to her scientific contributions. She was also a pioneer for women in science. At a time when women were largely excluded from academic and scientific institutions, Curie defied societal expectations and broke through multiple barriers. She became the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize and the first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes, solidifying her place in history as one of the most important scientists of all time. Curie's achievement served as a beacon of possibility for women around the world. Her success proved that women could excel in fields like physics and chemistry, and she inspired a generation of women to pursue careers in STEM science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Curie's refusal to let societal norms dictate her path resonated with women facing similar challenges, both in her time and today. Despite facing numerous obstacles, including financial hardships, gender discrimination, and the tragic death of her husband, Marie Curie remained unwavering in her commitment to scientific discovery. Her perseverance in the face of adversity became a defining aspect of her legacy. She proved that talent, hard work, and passion were more important than gender, and her life became a blueprint for how women could break through societal barriers to achieve greatness. Curie's influence extends beyond the realm of science. Her story has become a source of inspiration for people from all walks of life, particularly those facing challenges and discrimination. She showed that success is possible, even in the most difficult of circumstances, and her resilience serves as a reminder that barriers are meant to be broken. A lasting impact on science and society. Marie Curie's legacy has had a profound and lasting impact on both science and society. Her work on radioactivity revolutionized the way scientists understand atomic structure, and her discoveries paved the way for advancements in fields as diverse as nuclear energy, radiation therapy, and atomic physics. Her research provided the scientific basis for critical medical treatments, particularly in the fight against cancer. Beyond her scientific contributions, Curie's life and work have had a profound impact on society. She showed that science could be a force for good, and her work has helped save countless lives through the development of radiation therapies. Curie's establishment of the Curie Institute ensured that her legacy would continue long after her death, as future generations of scientists build on her work to make new discoveries. Marie Curie's personal life, a glimpse into the woman behind the science. Marie Curie, renowned for her scientific brilliance, also had a personal life filled with triumphs, challenges, and deep connections. Born Maria Skłodowska in Warsaw, Poland, in 1867, Curie's early life was marked by hardship and determination. Raised in a family that valued education, she was deeply influenced by her parents, especially her father, who was a physics and math teacher. Despite the obstacles posed by her country's political situation and the restrictions on women's education, Curie was driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge. In her youth, she had to resort to informal education, teaching herself from books and attending a secret floating university in Poland, an underground institution where students could learn outside the eyes of Russian authorities. This desire for learning eventually led her to Paris in 1891, where she enrolled at the Sorbonne, overcoming immense financial difficulties to pursue her studies in physics and mathematics. It was in Paris that she met Pierre Curie, a fellow scientist. Their bond was not only romantic, but intellectual, forming on mutual respect and shared passion for discovery. They married in 1895, and together, they worked tirelessly on groundbreaking research in radioactivity, leading to the discovery of polonium and radium. Pierre's sudden and tragic death in 1906 was a profound loss for Marie, but she persevered, continuing their work and becoming the first woman to teach at the Sorbonne. As a mother, Marie was devoted to her two daughters, Irene and Eve. She instilled in them the same values of education and scientific inquiry. Irene would later follow in her footsteps, winning a Nobel Prize in chemistry in 1935. Despite her fame, Marie Curie remained humble and deeply private, often rejecting the limelight. Her dedication to science came at a personal cost, including health issues due to her prolonged exposure to radiation, which ultimately contributed to her death in 1934. Nevertheless, remained steadfast in her pursuit of knowledge until her final days. Despite the physical toll, she never wavered from her work, even as the effects of radiation began to take hold. Curie's commitment to science defined much of her life, but she also found meaning in the close relationships she fostered and her deep sense of responsibility towards society. Curie was fiercely independent and, after Pierre's death, raised her daughters while continuing her scientific research. She worked hard to ensure that both her family and her groundbreaking scientific pursuits flourish. Though not outspoken on feminist issues, her life and career shattered many societal norms. She broke through barriers as the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different scientific fields. Her relationship with her children was especially important. She encouraged their education and independence, and her eldest daughter, Irene, followed closely in her scientific footsteps, eventually receiving a Nobel Prize herself. Eve, on the other hand, became a writer and penned a biography of her mother, shedding light on the more personal side of Marie's life. Through her children, Curie's intellectual and emotional legacy extended beyond the laboratory. Marie Curie's personal life, though shaped by scientific rigor and achievement, was also deeply human. She experienced profound love, immense loss, and personal sacrifice. Her humility, perseverance, and dedication not only to science, but to her family and society as a whole continue to inspire. Her life serves as a reminder that behind every great discovery is a person who faces life's trials, but who, through determination and passion, makes an indelible mark on the world. The speaker hopes the exercise of learning English through the video on Marie Curie's history was enjoyable and helpful. They invite viewers to share the video with others to help them learn English as well. The channel, The Corner to Speak English, offers more interesting content to strengthen language skills, and viewers are encouraged to review the material as often as needed. The speaker also welcomes comments, questions, and suggestions for future topics. They thank the audience for their attention and look forward to the next video with a new story.